What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. And in this video, I want to tell you guys the truth about Supreme Leader Snoke. The truth is that there's a whole lot of Snoke theories floating around out there. They're probably not true. The truth is that for the last 2 years now, we've been digging everywhere, digging up every clue. Snoke is Plagueis, right? From a character who was really just a side conversation from Revenge of the Sith, but we've made this character more than he really ought to be. What Rian Johnson had to say about Supreme Leader Snoke when he spoke with Anthony Breznican over at Entertainment Weekly was that, well, similar to Rey's parentage, Snoke is here to serve a function in the story. And you know, a story is not a Wikipedia page. That means that the film, The Last Jedi, may not fill in all of the blanks for the hardcore Snoke theorists. For example, in the original trilogy, we didn't know anything about Emperor Palpatine. We didn't even know that it was Emperor Palpatine, just he was the Emperor, except for exactly what we needed to know, which is what Luke knew about him, that he's the evil guy who's controlling Vader. But then in the prequels, we learned everything about Palpatine because old Sheev's rise to power, that was part of the story. We'll learn exactly as much about Snoke as we need to, but the really exciting thing is that we're going to see more of him. And Andy Serkis will get to do much more in The Last Jedi than he got to do in The Force Awakens. And Snoke is just a complete force of nature. So the question is, well, what is Snoke? Like, what is he? In The Force Awakens novelization, he's described as humanoid, but not human. Andy Serkis, the actor playing Supreme Leader Snoke, describes him as a cruel master, a 9-foot-tall alien humanoid. He says Snoke's body is kind of twisted up like a corkscrew, and he has limited movement. His aggression and his anger is contained and restricted by that physicality. There's a frailty and a damage to Snoke. His face is cleaved in, scars across his mouth, contorted body. Snoke's shattered skull and open jaw were also inspired by something from our own real world. His deformity is very much based on injuries from World War I, people fighting in the trenches who were able to be healed by modern medicine, but their bodies continue to bear the scars from such a brutal war. Some people absorb unspeakable pain, then vow to spend the rest of their lives working and fighting to make sure no one else has to suffer as they did. Others endure the same agony, but deal with it by magnifying that pain and blasting it back upon the world. Supreme Leader Snoke has chosen the latter. He's chosen to reflect his pain back at everyone else. Snoke has suffered, and he suffered injury. The way that his malevolence comes out is in reaction to those injuries. His hatred of the resistance is fueled by what's happened to him personally. But revenge is only part of Snoke's motivation. He's also ruled by his greed. And with all of that being said, well, who is Supreme Leader Snoke? Like I said, he's a religious ruler. He's a military ruler. He's got ties to the underworld, or underworld connections that we learned about in the Bloodline novel, when we learned that there's a whole lot of money laundering going on through these crime cartels and crime families, the gambling. So what's going on Canto Bight might also be helping fund the First Order's operations, right? But Supreme Leader Snoke is the leader of the First Order, but he has his own agenda. And the question is, what is Snoke's agenda? What are his intentions? What does Snoke actually want, right? Snoke is a cruel manipulator who disparages and dominates his two lieutenants, Kylo Ren and General Hux. He's a predator who identifies weaknesses and exploits them, drawing these two young, promising students to his side with promises of great power. But then after he uses them, he discards his proteges when they are no longer of use to him, right? And we saw that in The Force Awakens, when with the little infighting that's going on between Kylo Ren and Hux. When Finn defects and frees Poe Dameron, flees to Jakku, Kylo Ren makes the comment, perhaps the Supreme Leader should use clone troopers, right? Because Hux oversees the Stormtrooper program as handed down by his father, who came up with the Stormtrooper program. That started in Servants of the Empire during the Star Wars Rebels story, continues on in the aftermath. We learn even more about it in the Phasma novel, right? And we also learn what happened to Brendol Hux in the Phasma novel, and how General Hux, teamed up with Phasma to get rid of his father, right? The same thing you have to wonder, was Snoke behind that, right? Get rid of your father, and strike down your father and take your place at my side. It is your destiny. The same thing to Kylo Ren. Strike down your father. Take your place at my side. It is your destiny. And to get back on the little infighting, Hux also takes digs at Kylo Ren when he says, look, he said he forgot about the droid because he wanted the girl, and now the girl has overpowered him. Neener, neener, neener. So there's the whole thing going on there. It's a very, I don't want to say Machiavellian, but a very Nietzsche's will to power, right? The survival of the strongest, survival of the fittest, a very Sith way of looking at things, even though Snoke is not a Sith, but I'll come to that later. Well, actually, I'm there now. Last question, is Snoke a Force user? The thing about Snoke is that he's extremely strong with the Force, the dark side of the Force. He's terribly powerful. Andy Serkis was asked if Snoke is more powerful than Darth Vader and the Emperor, and his reply was, without question. He has limitless resources. We'll just put it that way. Without giving too much away, Snoke is strong. He's not a Sith, but he's on the dark end of the Force. Snoke's Force powers include telepathy, Force chokes, and throws, among many other Force abilities, right? So, Snoke is not a Sith. He's the leader of the First Order, and he's pitting Kylo Ren and Hux, the leaders of the mystical order of the First Order, and Kylo Ren, and the military branch of the First Order, and General Hux. He's pitting them against each other. At some point, he realizes that there's this girl who has bested Kylo Ren, who's somewhere out there, and Snoke wanting the fittest, the strongest at his side. At some point, he's going to look at Kylo Ren, his issues, his sentiment, the same way he criticized Vader for his sentiment. Had he struck down the sun, we wouldn't be here. And we have to wonder, right? What is Snoke after? What does Snoke know? Is Snoke ancient, as some of these theories say? We don't know. So then we have to discard those. Is Snoke some Sith no one knew existed? Snoke isn't a Sith. So he's not a Sith no one knew existed. He's just someone that no one knew existed at this point in time. Is he ancient? Well, the whole thing about Snoke being ancient, that came about because, Maz Kanata has been around longer than Yoda now. And so people said, Snoke's gotta be the mirror to Maz. So if Maz has been around a long time, Snoke has been around a long time. When all we know of Snoke is that he saw the rise and the fall of the Empire. That could be what, 50, the last 50 years he's been around? It could be 150 years. We don't know, right? All that we know is that at some point, the people who survived the Battle of Jakku, the Imperial Remnant, they went into the unknown regions of space. They formed the First Order. There was the first generation of First Order leaders, and then there was the second generation of First Order leaders. And at least from the second generation, Snoke emerged. He could have been there from the start, but all we know is that when the second group of First Order leaders came together, then Snoke was there at that time, or had to have been there at that time, right? What happened with Rey Sloane? No one's seen her in a while. We don't know, right? So that's all we know of Snoke at this time. Do I have some theories because I've been shooting down a lot? Actually, I kind of do. We know that Snoke is very powerful. He's a dark side user. My guess, I think that Snoke is the Star Killer. And I'm not talking about Galen Merrick. If you know me, if you know where I source my material from, before there was Star Killer Base, there was an actual Star Killer to be in The Force Awakens, right? Did they take the idea of the Star Killer and push that all on the Star Killer Base? Because there was already going to be a super weapon, but there was also going to be a Star Killer character who was going to be the Jedi Killer, who was going to be Kylo Ren. Did they take those just like the way they took concepts of Kylo Ren and created Captain Phasma? Did the Star Killer become Supreme Leader Snoke? I'll tell you more about that on my next Snoke video, so make sure you check back for that. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button so that you can take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Embark on the journey of becoming the hero of your own story and become a force for change in your community. Continue to support the channel. You can do that by checking out more videos, and make sure you share this video with all of your friends and in your favorite Star Wars communities online. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always.